Hey guys, welcome back for another video. We got a good one prepared today. What we'll be doing is we'll be going over all of our Week 13 college football matchups for the 2024 college football season. We're going to break down every matchup, break down the rosters, break down the bets, the money lines, the spreads, the over-unders, but we'll be trying to predict the outcome to the game. Who's going to win, who's going to lose, and what the final score will be. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe. If you have any comments about these games, please drop them below and I will respond. Every week we go over every single college football game. The top 25 ones. The non-top 25 ones, we break them down, and we also do the same thing for every NFL game as well. If you're a football fan, if you're a sports fan, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you can follow along with us. So we're going over our Week 13 matchups. Rivalry week is next week. There's 21 top 25 matchups. There's a lot of them this week, so we're going to try to get through them as quickly as we can, but we want to make sure to get all of the info that we can for every single one of them. There's a lot of teams playing pretty easy schedules this week, so it's kind of hard to try to find the upsets here because there's only a couple really good matchups. But let's go ahead and get started running through these. The very first one we have kicking things off on ESPN at 12 p.m. We have 4 and 6 Wake Forest versus number 9 Miami Hurricanes 9-1. Now, don't forget, the moment of me making this video, the new college football playoff poll hasn't come out yet. That comes out Tuesday night, so obviously there's going to be some movement in the polls. But right now, the Hurricanes have a 95.7% chance to win this game. 24-point favorites. Massive spread. The over in here is 64.5. Looking at Wake Forest. Wake Forest is a team that doesn't have a bad offense. They come in, they're averaging 27.7, throwing for 274.8, running for 136.2, giving up 32.5 points a game. There will be opportunities for Miami to move the ball both through the air and on the ground because Wake Forest's defense is pretty bad. They give up almost 300 yards passing and 156 yards rushing. So Miami will be able to score, but Wake Forest is not bad throwing the ball. They've been going with Hank Bachmeier. He's the guy. He's been around college football for a while. I think he started out with Boise back in like 2019, 2020, sometime in there. He's closing on 2,300 yards, 14 touchdowns, 9 picks. If Wake Forest can keep the turnovers down, they have a chance to potentially compete with Miami. But let's be honest, Miami's obviously the better team. Very talented team, but they're coming off that loss to Georgia Tech again. They had the bye week. How did they respond? How does Mario Cristobal rally everyone, get everyone back on track here? Look for a big game on both sides of the ball for the Hurricanes. We want to see them respond. We want to see them answer the call. The defense has to step up. The secondary for Miami has to step up, has to finally get some tackles, and that D-line has to get some sacks. They're getting pressure, but they're not getting sacks. Miami comes in, they still have a top 3 offense, they're averaging 45 a game, throwing for 381.6, running for 176.6, and they're giving up 23.1 points a game. Their weakness is that secondary, but they're loaded at every single position. Martinez, Fletcher, Lyle, Allen, Horton, Restrepo, Arroyo, Williams, multiple weapons everywhere, a good offensive line. Wake Forest can throw the ball. They have Claiborne run the ball, closing in on 1,000 yards. They might get some second half garbage points, but I have Miami taking control of this game, winning it 45-20. Don't forget, Miami has zero room for error here. They've already dropped one. They want to make sure they win out, make that ACC championship game so that they have a shot to win the ACC and get that bye week. Next one is the game of the weekend, 12 p.m. on Fox. Number 5, Indiana, 10-0 undefeated versus number 2, Ohio State Buckeyes, 9-1. This is a number 2 versus number 5 matchup. This is actually the Buckeyes' third 5-on-5 matchup where they were a top 5 team playing another top 5 team. They played the Ducks, they played Penn State, now they're playing Indiana. There's a lot riding on this game. The winner of this game could potentially be setting themselves up to make the Big Ten championship, where they would be playing potentially the Oregon Ducks. We see how much is riding here. The winner of this game cements themselves to potentially be getting that bye week if they win the Big Ten. The loser still has a shot to make the playoffs, but obviously you really want that bye. Right now, the Buckeyes, 11-point favorites. The over-under here is 51.5. Props to Indiana. Came out of nowhere this season. Curt Cignetti, what a job he's done. They are playing multiple, throwing the ball, running the ball. They also have a top 15 defense, but we all know the Buckeyes, they have the number 3 overall roster. They're averaging 37.8 points a game, throwing for 275, running for 183.8. They're only giving up 10.3 points a game. The number 1 defense in all the land, in all of college football, the most talented defense in the nation. And we know who's on their offensive roster. They're loaded. Howard, Junkins, Henderson, Smith, Egbuka. Multiple weapons, multiple ways they can beat you. A loaded staff. Ryan Day, Chip Kelly, Knowles. Skill everywhere. But Indiana doesn't really care. Right now, they come in, they're averaging 43.9 points a game. They're throwing for 284.1, running for 176.7. They're only giving up 13.8 points a game. That's a top 10 defense right there. This game is going to be decided in the trenches. Indiana only gives up 72.2 rushing yards per game. The Buckeyes give up 90.7 rushing yards per game. This is going to be a game. This is strength on strength, defensive lines versus offensive line. Who's going to own the battle of the trenches? I think this game is going to be close. I think it could be decided second half, late third, fourth quarter. I have the Buckeyes winning it 28-20. But this game was very close. If Indiana wins it, massive props to them. Both teams can still make the playoffs, but I think you have to favor the Buckeyes just due to the amount of running back strength they have. But do not underestimate the Hoosiers. O'Rourke having a great season. They have Ellison. They have Surratt. They have the playmakers there. They have the great coaching, but I think the Buckeyes' depth makes a difference second half. Then on ABC at 12 p.m., number 11, Ole Miss, 8-2. They're obviously having a great season so far. Everything's in front of them, but they have zero room for error. They have to win out to make the playoffs. If they finish the season 10-2 coming out of the SEC, yes, they probably won't make the SEC championship, but they should make the playoffs. Now, if they lose one, if they drop to 9-3, that could potentially take them out of that running. So just take it game by game, win from this point out. There's only 2 games left. They'll be playing the 5-5 Florida Gators. The Florida Gators have some life. If they win this game or they win next week's game versus Florida State, they make a bowl game. They had the most difficult college football schedule I've ever seen in my life, and they might make a bowl game. Props to Billy Napier for that. Right now, Ole Miss has a 78.1% chance to win this game. They are 10.5-point favorites. The over-under is 55.5. We know what Ole Miss is. They have the number 1 transfer portal class. They have Lane Kiffin there. They're going to be able to move the ball. They can throw, they can run. They also have a top 10 defense. Right now, they're averaging 40.7, throwing for 375.7, running for 173.9, almost 600 yards of offense per game. They're only giving up 12.9 points a game. They have Jackson Dart. He's closing in on 3,400 yards, 22 touchdowns, 4 picks. They have Parrish Jr. They have Trey Harris. If he's healthy, if he's able to get back on the field, he's a top 3 wide receiver in the nation. Florida playing much better. DJ Lagway, he's healthy. They're coming off of that win versus LSU. They have the momentum going. They're at home. They're averaging 28 points a game, throwing for 240.8, running for 147.3. Their defense does give up 26.4 points per game, so there will be opportunities for Ole Miss to be able to move the ball, but Florida has to get really good play. They have to be able to run the ball with Bo. They have to be able to catch the ball with Badger. They need their playmakers to step up. They need Lagway to have a clean game. He's going to be under a lot of pressure this game. Ole Miss gets after the quarterback. They can hurry the quarterback up. Hurrying the quarterback could potentially lead to some errant throws, which could lead into interceptions. Ole Miss wants that short field. They have the offense that can make you pay. I have Ole Miss winning this one 34-23, but do not sleep on Florida. Then at 12 p.m. on ESPN2, number 14 SMU 9-1. I said preseason this team should have been ranked to start the season top 25. No one believed me. Now they're just outside the top 10, potentially aligning themselves to make that ACC championship, where they might be playing Miami or Clemson. They'll be playing 5-5, the University of Virginia, who played Clemson really close. Right now, SMU has a 78.2% chance to win this game. They are 9.5-point favorites. The over-under is 58.5. SMU, what a team this is under Rhett Lashley. Stone doesn't play well. Jennings comes in. This team has never looked back. This guy can throw the ball. He can run the ball. He picks up massive yardage on the ground. He's closing in on 2,200 yards, 15 touchdowns, 6 picks. He has 3 touchdowns running. They're averaging 39.9 points a game. They're 9.5-point favorites here. They're throwing for 261.1, running for 190.9. Rhett Lashley's up-tempo, air raid, hybrid running scheme is working wonders, spreading the ball out. A lot of guys getting catches. They're giving up 22.4 points a game, only 99 on the ground. This team plays offense. This team plays defense. Right now, Virginia, called today having a great season at the quarterback position, closing in on 2,100 yards, 12 touchdowns, 11 picks. That's the issue. He has some good games, but he has some turnover games. He has as many turnovers as touchdowns. What version of him do we get this game? Does he play a clean game, or does he turn the ball over, which gives the short field to SMU? They're averaging 24.8. They're giving up 27.5. SMU has the playmakers. Brashad Smith closing in on 1,100 yards on the ground. He's the transfer from Miami. And they have Keyshawn Smith at the receiver position. And for Virginia, they have Brown and they have Field. But SMU playmakers, make sure you keep your guys on focus. You're aligned to make that ACC championship. Don't drop one of these needless games at the end of the season. I have SMU rolling here, winning this one 35-24. Then on the SEC Network at 12:45 p.m. we have the Georgia Bulldogs hosting UMass at 2-8. Georgia's 8-2. They're number 12. Obviously, they're coming off of that massive win this past weekend. Props to them. They are 42-point favorites here right now. Obviously, this game is going to be a blowout. There's no chance that UMass wins this one. Georgia's a 42-point favorite. That's a crazy number here. The over-under in this matchup is 55.5. Georgia's going to curb stomp them. There's not much to say there. They're going to have a great game from Carson Beck. They're averaging 30.6. They're giving up 18.3. This is going to be a pad stat stuffing game. They're going to be able to throw the ball, run the ball, do whatever they will. So we're not going to learn anything from this game, but Georgia had a tough schedule. Props to them. They do deserve a cupcake. They roll here 48-3. Then at 1 p.m. on the SEC Network, we have 2-6 UTEP versus number 7 Tennessee 8-2. Tennessee will be dropping. They have that close loss to Georgia. They have a 99% chance to win this game. Another massive spread. A lot of cupcakes. They are 42-point favorites. The over here is 52.5. UTEP, they only average 19.2. They give up 29.7. This is a Tennessee. This is a rebound game here. They have to make sure they show the committee they still deserve one of those final 12 spots. They have 2 losses. If they win out, they can still make the playoffs, but you want to make sure you prove to the committee that you're going to beat these teams up. You have to beat them up and get those style points. That's just the way things work. It's the eye test. They're averaging 35.5. They're giving up 14.4. They have Nico. They have the playmakers. They have Sampson closing in on 1,300 yards on the ground, 21 touchdowns. Thornton Jr., Squirrel White. Tennessee's going to dominate this game. It's not going to be close. They win it 48-7. And then at 3:30 p.m. on Fox, number 17, Colorado Buffaloes 8-2. What a season Deion Sanders' squad is having. They'll be playing 4-5 Kansas. Kansas, hey, they have a bad record, but they are playing hot right now. They're playing right now the way a lot of people thought they were going to be playing to start the season out. Right now, Colorado has a 54.5% chance to win this game. 3-point favorites. Over-under is 59.5. Colorado, they are rolling in multiple ways. The offense, obviously, Shedeur Sanders, Horn, Wester, Travis Hunter, multiple playmakers, but it's the defense which has also stepped up and is playing great football, tackling much better than they did last season. Right now, Shedeur Sanders closing on 3,300 yards, 27 touchdowns, 7 picks. They're averaging 34.1. They're throwing for 346.9. They're only running for 77. At some point, that's going to catch up with them. You got to establish the ground game, and they're only giving up 22.7 points a game. Kansas, a lot of people picked them to compete for the Big 12. They fell apart due to turnovers. Daniels was finally healthy, had an awful start to the season, but the last 3 or 4 games, he's playing the way a lot of people thought he was going to be. Right now, they're averaging 30.2. They're throwing for 210.8. They're running for 200.3. So they're averaging over 400 yards. They're giving up 24.6. They have Neal, a top 10 running back in the nation, closing in on 1,000 yards. They can compete with teams. This game is easily going to turn into a potential shootout, but Colorado's used to those shootouts this season, especially fourth quarter heroics. I have Colorado pulling it out in the end, winning it 38-28. But don't underestimate Kansas. They are much better than their record. Then on ABC at 3:30, we have 4-6 Kentucky. Kentucky has to win this game to keep their bowl hopes alive. They'll be playing number 3 Texas Longhorns, 9-1. The Longhorns have a 94.7% chance to win this game. They are 20.5-point favorites. The over-under is 47.5. Kentucky, Stoops. This is a Stoops team. You know, they have a good defense. They play physical. They run the ball, but their offense continues to just not be very good. They're only averaging 21.9 points a game, throwing for 205.6, running for 157.1. But that defense gives up 19.3. As long as you have a defense that only gives up 19 points a game, it's going to keep you in these games. Defense travels on the road, but will they be able to go 4 quarters with the Texas Longhorns, who their offense hasn't really been playing well the last few weeks, and they have no wins versus ranked teams currently right now. Texas, they got to curb stomp these teams. They're number 3, and they have 0 top 25 wins over any of the current top 25 teams. Right now, the Longhorns come in, they're averaging 37 a game, throwing for 301.8, running for 161.6. They're only giving up 11.9 points a game. This is a really good Texas Longhorns roster. Even though they don't have the wins over top 25 teams, that's not their fault. That's kind of just the way the schedule set up this season. This is a very talented team. Steve Sarkisian's team can score. Ewers, Wisner, Helm, a healthy Bond. He's this year's worthy. I have Texas winning this game, but I think it's going to be close first half. But Texas and their depth and physicality wins it second half. They win it 38-17. But we need to see them get hot, especially leading up to the Aggies game. And then at 3:30 p.m. on CBS, number 4, Penn State, 9-1. Only 2 games left. If they win out, they'll finish 11-1. They're for sure making the Final 12. Might not make the Big Ten championship, but if you drop one, you're still in. No matter what, 10-2 Big Ten, you're in. 11-1, you're in. Just get hot right now. You want to be rolling leading up to the playoffs. Right now, Penn State's 75% chance to win this game. They are 12.5-point favorites. Over-unders 45.5 versus the 6-4 Minnesota team. Do not underestimate PJ Fleck's team here. You don't want to be USC. You don't want to come in here. This is a physical team. They can move the ball when they have to. They can throw. They can run situationally, but it's their top 20 defense they have right now. Penn State, they're averaging 33 points a game. They're throwing for 260. They're running for 200. The points haven't necessarily lined up with the stats they're putting up on the field. They need to punch it in the red zone. They do have one of the best two running back punches. They also have a top 10 defense, giving up 13.6 points a game, only 98.5 on the ground. This is a very talented defense under Allen. Franklin has to keep his boys hot, though. Right now, they have Singleton, they have Allen, they have the running game. They're going to line up. They're going to out-physical you over the course of 4 quarters. But Minnesota, they can take it. They're averaging 26.7. They're throwing for 243.6. They're running for 104.7. Brosmer having a good season at the quarterback position, closing on 2,300 yards, 14 touchdowns, 4 picks. The best quarterback they've had in some time. But it's that defense only giving up 17.7 points a game. But can that defense last over 4 quarters of the ground and pound that Penn State will be bringing? I have Penn State pulling away late second half, taking control of this game in the trenches. They win it 30-18. And then on ESPN at 3:30 p.m., number 6 BYU, they're 9-1. Obviously, they just lost. They're going to be falling in the polls, but they will still be ranked. They'll be playing 8-2 Arizona State. I hope Arizona State is ranked when the new college football playoff poll comes out. They have really solid wins this season. They're playing pretty decent defense, but it's that offense and the run game that has really turned this into a great season. Props to Dillingham. His team is way ahead of schedule right now. They are 3-point favorites here playing BYU, and Arizona State has a 55.6% chance to win this game. BYU lives off the turnovers. When they get turnovers, they turn it into points. If they don't get turnovers, they do struggle moving the ball down the length of the field. They want those turnovers so they have the short field so they can punch it in. They're averaging 31.6. They have Retzlaff closing in on 2,300 yards, 19 touchdowns, 8 picks. They have a really good defense, though. They throw for 242. They're running for 163. Their defense is only giving up 19.5 points a game and generating a lot of turnovers. Arizona State has to play clean football here. Force BYU to play your style of football. And Arizona State has been keeping the turnovers incredibly low, one of the least turning over teams in all of college football, so they're going to make it hard for BYU to play their style of football. So who wins that matchup? Who wins that battle? Right now, the Sun Devils are averaging 30.8. They have Levitt at the quarterback position, closing on 2,000 yards, 17 touchdowns, 4 picks. They're throwing for 220, but it's their run game. They run for 190.5 yards every single game, only giving up 22.8 points a game. It's Scatabo at the running back position. He's closing in on 1,100 yards on the ground. One of the best running backs in the nation, a top 10 running back. He goes, the team goes with him no matter what happens. I have Arizona State running their way to victory. They win this one 28-23, and they're positioning themselves to potentially compete for the Big 12 championship, which means a potential playoff spot. Then on the CW Network at 3:30 p.m., 5-6 Citadel versus number 20 Clemson, 8-2. This is just a game. Pad the stats, get the offense rolling. You want them rolling into your final game. You want them rolling. Potentially, you could still make the ACC championship. They have a 99% chance to win this game. 50.5 point favorite over into 60.5. This game's not going to be close. Clemson averages 36.3. They give up 22.8. They have the playmakers. They have Klubnik. They have Maffa. They have Williams. The game is obviously going to be a blowout. I have Clemson winning it 52-7. And don't worry, guys, we'll have another top 25 prediction video coming out later this week because we know that the polls and the spreads will be changing. This is one team that might drop out on ESPN2 at 4 p.m. You have number 19 Louisville, 6-4, hosting 7-3 Pitt. This game's going to be close. This is two offenses that can both move the ball. Right now, Louisville has a 75.2% chance to win this game. They are 8.5 point favorites. The over-under is 57.5. Pat Narduzzi and this Pitt team, they can score. They can score in bunches. They just almost beat Clemson also recently. Right now, Holstein, the transfer from Alabama, is closing on 2,200 yards, 17 touchdowns, 6 picks. They're averaging 35 points a game, throwing for 300.8, running for 144.4, giving up 25 points a game. There will be opportunities for Louisville to score. There will be opportunities for Pitt to score. The game's going to be a shootout. Will go down to the fourth quarter. Could potentially go down to whoever has the ball last. But Jeff Brom knows how to coach offense. He knows how to get the ball into his playmakers' hands. Show having a good season, closing on 2,800 yards, 21 touchdowns, 6 picks. But he has played like 15 years of college football. Let's be honest, they're averaging 36.1, throwing for 295.6, running for 163. Their defense gives up 25.6. There's a lot of playmakers here. Holston, Reed, Mumfield, Louisville. Brown is a freshman closing in on 900 yards. Brooks, the transfer from Alabama, just shy of 1,000 yards. I think Louisville has the slight edge playmaker-wise. That's what gives them this game. They win at 35-32. I don't want to go anywhere near this game because I think either one of these teams can win. It's going to be a shootout. It's going to be really fun to watch. Next is another one of our cupcake games at 4 p.m. on the SEC Network. 5-6 Wofford versus number 21 South Carolina. 7-1. They have a 99% chance to win this game. Another huge spread. 42.5 point favorites. Over under is 59.5. South Carolina, they're rolling here. Wofford can't do anything. They only average 16.7. The Gamecocks average 30.6. They only give up 18.8. Props to Shane Beamer. He has taken himself off the hot seat. This team, couple things bounced their way, and they only have one loss this season, potentially competing for the SEC championship. They have too many weapons, and that defense is legit. I have the Gamecocks rolling here. The game's not going to be close. They win at 55-10. And then on the SEC Network at 4:15, number 20 through Mizzou, 7-3 versus Mississippi State, 2-8. Do not underestimate Jeff Lebby's team. Sometimes they have a really good performance offensive-wise. Just ask the Bulldogs, but usually they give up a lot of points, and almost anyone can score on them. Right now, Mizzou has a 71.2% chance to win this game. They are 8-point favorites. The over-under here is 57.5. Mizzou, very talented team, very easy schedule this season, but they have a lot of experienced veteran. Cook, especially if he's healthy. They have Noel, Weiss Jr., Burden, who's might be a top 2, number 1 wide receiver in the entire nation right now. Right now, they're averaging 28.2. They're giving up 20 points a game. Mississippi State, they average 27.6, but they are giving up 34.4 points per game. Missouri will be able to move the ball wherever they want. For Mississippi State, they have Van Buren Jr. closing on 1,500 yards, 9 touchdowns, 5 picks. They have Booth, and they have Coleman Jr. They might get some points, especially garbage time, but Mizzou and this veteran experienced team should be able to dominate for 4 quarters. They win at 34-23. A lot of cupcake games, but finally a top 25 on top 25 matchup at 7 p.m. on NBC. Number 24 Army, 9-0, undefeated versus number 8 Notre Dame, 9-1. Notre Dame cannot afford to lose any more games. They've already lost to NIU. Very bad loss. As long as they win out, they're going to make the playoffs. If they drop to 10-2 and they have no conference championship game, I think they're going to be out. They need to make sure they win this game. This is a solid win, but easier said than done. Right now, Notre Dame has an 87.7% chance to win this game. They are 14-point favorites. The over-under is 44.5. Army, they can move the ball. They can run the ball. They run the triple option. They're the number 1 rushing team in the nation. When you run the triple option, you suck up clock. You keep the other team's offense off the field. They run the triple option. Sometimes they have one possessions 10 to 12 minutes long. It's almost one entire quarter. It's crazy, but that can work wonders. But you can only run the triple option if you're getting first downs. Notre Dame has a top 10 defense. They're going to make it difficult for Army to be able to run downhill on them. Right now, Army, they have Daly at the quarterback position, closing on 700 yards, 7 touchdowns, 1 pick. He also has 21 rushing touchdowns. That's right, 21 rushing touchdowns. They're averaging 35.2, throwing for 87.2, running for 334.9. That's the thing they do well. Can Notre Dame take the run away from them? Notre Dame plays these teams every single season, so they know how to play the triple option. It's strength on strength. It's the triple option run game versus Notre Dame's defense, and Army only gives up 10.3 points a game. They also bring in a top 5 defense. Beautiful. Right now, Notre Dame, they're averaging 38 points a game. They're throwing for 206.3. They're running for 216.7. Riley Leonard, not accurate throwing the ball at all. Never has been, even with Duke. But one thing Notre Dame can do, they play defense. They know how to run the ball. They have Love. They have Riley Leonard rushing. Running opens up play action. That's when they can hit those passes. The Collins, Notre Dame only gives up 11.4 points a game. Which defense plays better? I think it favors Notre Dame here, especially at home. They cannot afford to drop this. You love the service academies. You love them. But I have Notre Dame winning this one 38-20. They start to pull away late third, early fourth quarter. Then on CBS at 7 p.m., number 13, Boise State, 9-1. They had a close call there for that first quarter versus San Jose State, but then obviously they did what they do, and they won that game, and they won it big. They'll be playing Wyoming 2-8. Right now, Boise has a 94.6% chance to win this game. They are 23-point favorites. The over-under is 57.5. Boise comes in. this team can move the ball. Right now, Madsen, he's closing in on 2,200 yards, 19 touchdowns, 3 picks, and the guy can scramble. They're averaging 43.6 points a game. They're throwing for 237.1. They're running for 258.7. They have a top 10 rushing team in the nation. They give up 24.7 points a game, but it all centers around Ashton Gentry. This is the best running back in all of college football. To me, he's the best player this season in college football. He's putting up video game numbers, closing in on 1,900 yards, 27 touchdowns. 27 touchdowns. Crazy stuff. They can ride him to victory. No one has stopped the guy yet. Wyoming right now, they are averaging 20.4 points a game. They're giving up 30.9. So obviously there's going to be a lot of opportunities for Boise to be able to run, throw. They give up 200 on the ground, 233 through the air. Their rush defense is really bad, and they're playing the best running back in the nation by a mile. Boise runs all over them. They win this one 42-17. Now, in the next one, Washington State could get knocked out of the top 25 on the CW network at 7 p.m. Number 18, Washington State, 8-2, still having a great season versus 4-6 Oregon State. Right now, this is the team. This is a battle of the teams that were left out when the Pac-12 dissolved, but now it's coming back. Right now, Washington State has a 74.4% chance to win this game, 12.5-point favorites. The over-under is 56.5. Washington State, one thing they do have is a top 10 quarterback in the nation. Mateer closing in on 2,800 yards, 26 touchdowns, 6 picks. He also has, 12 rushing touchdowns? This guy throwing the ball, running the ball, putting up great numbers. They run a great offense. They're scoring a lot of points. They do give up 28.1 points per game. There will be opportunities for the Beavers to be able to move the ball here, but Washington State averages 38.9. So they're going to get into a shootout with you, and they're just going to try to outscore you. Right now, Oregon State, they're averaging 23.2 points a game. They're giving up 28.7, so obviously the defense will not be there to stop Washington State, but this game is personal. These teams are very familiar. They're both from the Pac-12. They both want to win this game. I don't want to overlook the Beavers here. Upset alert potential, especially with Washington State coming off of a loss. How do they respond? I have them winning a very close one, 33-27. And then on ABC at 7:30 p.m., number 10, Alabama, 8-2. Alabama's one of the hottest teams in the nation right now on both sides of the ball. Jalen Milroe put himself just back in just outside of that Heisman conversation. They'll be playing 5-5 Oklahoma. The Sooners want to win this one. They want to make sure they get a bowl game. They don't want their first game in the SEC to be a non-bowl game season. Brent Venables needs this one. Right now, Bama 14-point favorites have an 81.5% chance to win this game. The over-under is 47.5. Bama comes in, they're averaging 39.5. They're throwing for 259. They're running for 192, and that defense is getting back on track. It was very questionable, but the last 3 to 4 games, that defense has been on point. They're only giving up 16.9 points a game. Milroe's leading the way. 2,300 yards, 15 touchdowns, 6 picks. He also has 17 rushing touchdowns, having a great season. If they win out, they're going to potentially set themselves up. They have an outside shot to make the SEC championship. Yes, there's Georgia, there's Texas, but if a team slips up, they might be able to slide in there. Right now, the Sooners, they're averaging 25.1 points a game. They're throwing for 210.4. They're running for 143.9. They're giving up 21.9 points a game. Oklahoma actually has statistically a top 10 defensive line. Sacks, quarterback pressures, hurries. They have a good defense. Can they bottle up Milroe, keep him in the pocket? Even in the pocket, he's making teams pay. He always finds Williams for the deep shot. Sooners have to play a clean game here. No turnovers. Find a way to run the ball. Barnes, Sharp, Arnold. You have to play a clean game. Not for 1, not 2, not 3, for 4 quarters versus the Crimson Tide. I have Bama winning this one, but it's going to be close because Oklahoma has a good defense. But Bama wins 27-17. This next one's a tough one on ESPN at 7:30 p.m. Number 15, Texas A&M Aggies 8-2. Next week, they have the Longhorns. Can they stay focused on this week and not get caught looking at next weekend? They'll be playing 4-6 Auburn. Auburn's offense is atrocious, but one thing they do have is a really good defense, a really, really good defensive line. Right now, the Aggies, this is Mike Elko's team. They are in his image. They play defense. They run the ball. They play special teams. They're averaging 31.6 points a game. They're throwing for 209. They're running for 212.9, the number 1 rushing team in the SEC. They have Reed at the quarterback position. Wegman was playing sloppy. He stepped in. What he can do is he can extend plays with his legs. He's closing in on 1,200 yards, 9 touchdowns, 2 picks. He's only been a starter for a couple games, though, has lit things up. He's going to have to play a clean game here. He's on the road He has to play a clean game. He hasn't started very many games. How does he respond at Auburn under that pressure with that really good defensive line? Right now, Auburn, they're averaging 27.6. They're throwing for 271. They're running for 172. They want to keep the ball on the ground, dominate the time of possession, keep the Aggies' offense off the field. They want to win the game with their run game and with their defense only giving up 18.7 points per game. They have Thorne at the quarterback position, but he's going to have to play a clean game. He's closing in on 2,200 yards, 18 touchdowns, 7 picks. They have Hunter at running back. He's going to have a good game. They're going to have to be getting first downs nonstop. They have Lambert Smith. They have a decent wide receiver core that they built through the portal here, but a clean game wins you this game. But it's going to be hard, especially versus the Aggies' defensive line, and they also have a great run game. I'm calling upset here. I have Auburn winning the upset going into the Iron Bowl, potentially trying to get a bowl game. They win this one 23-20. I don't want to go near this game because I think it's so 50-50. It could go either way, so I'm leaning towards the home team. Our second to last one's another SEC game on the SEC Network at 7:45. 6-4 Vanderbilt. Pavia's banged up. What's his status? Where he goes, this team goes with him. They'll be playing number 22 LSU, who's obviously going to get knocked out of the top 25. They just had that loss to Florida at Florida. Brian Kelly, rough third season. He needs this game. He needs to win out from this point. He needs to get the 8 wins, and then he needs to win his bowl game. He needs to get 9 wins this season, or his seat is potentially going to be on fire. Right now, LSU 7.5-point favorite. The over here is 54.5. For Vanderbilt, they're averaging 28 points a game. They're giving up 21.7. This is a really good team. They can throw the ball. They can run the ball. Don't sleep on Vanderbilt, or you'll get caught just like Alabama did, just like Texas almost got caught. This is a competitive team. They've beaten better teams this season. They can beat LSU. How does LSU respond with the disappointing season coming off of a loss? Right now, Nussmeier closing on 3,200 yards, 22 touchdowns, 11 picks. He needs to play a clean game, keep the turnovers down. They're averaging 29.1, which is pretty low for them. They're giving up 25.1. Defense started out the season looking really good under Blake Baker. It's taken a couple steps back second half. I have LSU winning this one 30-23. But LSU, you have to finish the season on a high note. And our final game, a Big 12 matchup at 8 p.m. on ESPN2. 5-5 Cincinnati, pretty good team. They can throw the ball. They can run the ball versus number 16 Kansas State, 7-3. Kansas State might drop out of the top 25, or they might finish somewhere around 23-25. They are 8.5-point favorites here, 72.2% chance to win this game. 52.5 over under Cincinnati. They're averaging 27.4. They have Sorsby closing in on 2,500 yards, 16 touchdowns, 5 picks. They're throwing for 256.6. They're running for 182.2. They can throw it. They can run it. Everyone throws on Kansas State, but it is pretty difficult to run on them, and they're giving up 23.4 points a game. Avery Johnson, the highest recruited player in Kansas State history. He can throw it. He can run the ball, though. His legs is what could be the difference maker here. He's closing in on 2,200 yards, 17 touchdowns, 9 picks. He can also add 5 rushing. They're averaging 29.5. They're throwing for 226.5. They're running for 202.9. They're giving up 21.9 points a game. And they have a pretty questionable secondary, but their defensive line is a legitimate defensive line. Very hard to run on Kansas State, and they have DJ Giddens, a top 5 running back in the country, closing in on 1,200 yards. They have Jace Brown for those deep third and long situations. I have Kansas State squeaking this one out, winning it 28-24. They got to finish this season on a high note as well. So that will wrap up our top 25 predictions for all of our Week 13 matchups for the 2024 college football season. That was a lot of games. That was 21 games. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe. If you have any comments, please drop them below, and I will respond. Thank you.